Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Bristol Township Zoning Hearing Board. We're going to start with, please stand and remove your hats for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I introduce a few people to you. To my left is our solicitor, Ken Fetterman. We also got the director of L&I, Mr. Bob McTeague, our stenographer, Cindy Oliveira, and our board members, Mark DeMarcus and Colleen Dunn. And I'm your friendly neighborhood chairman, Jim McMahon. Before we get started, we got a couple things. I need a motion from the board for a continuance of number 8 on the agenda, Nancy Chen and Soye Chen, 3220 Carroll Court, Bensalem, PA. That's for December's zoning board meeting. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Guys have it. So that'd be December for that. And number 11 on the January, it's a January, number 11 on the agenda is a January continuance. DCD Capital LLC, care of Stephen Davis, 30 Maiden Lane, Bound Brook, New Jersey. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. All right. So that's that. That's out of the way. Let's get started with number 1 on the agenda. Kristen Stites, 60 Beech Tree Road, Levittown, PA. Please come on up.
Hi.
Okay, do you have your mail-ins?
Yes.
Bring them up, please.
I'll take those. Thank you. Good. Posted. We're good to go on the mail-ins and the posting.
Thank you.
Okay, when you're ready, you can proceed with your presentation.
I'm just here today to request a variance of 60, currently 66 square feet over the impervious surface limit. 66. I would like to eventually add a pool to my yard, so I'm requesting a variance for the 66 feet plus a future pool.
66 feet plus the pool?
Yes.
What's the approximate square footage of the pool?
I have that here.
500 square foot.
Thank you. 510 max. And in the packet, do you each have a packet, this color drawing here? You can see all the grass I have. The pool is in the red. And it looks better than it sounds. I have a corner lot, and the drainage is very good to begin with. Also in the back, there was a driveway that I've removed. I moved it around the front of the house, but so that's now no longer impervious surface in the back.
As the property sits now, it's 40.7 over, and with the pool, will be at 46%.
That was my next question. All right, 46% over impervious. I don't see how we can give her a variance on impervious surface if she doesn't have I mean, we have no set pool prints or anything to that effect, like, to where she can maybe come lower off the impervious surface of 40%.
Well, from what she handed in today, she would be within the setbacks,
Okay,
and she would need the variance to get the pool.
so she don't even want to proceed with the pool project till she gets the impervious surface part of it.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
I do see from the plot plan that you provided that you would be over on the sewer easement as well.
No, no, the sewer easement is 10 feet on that side of the property, and everything is more than 10 feet away from the property line. Or the shed, I believe, was maybe at 9.5 feet. And I had called the MUA about that.
Your drawings you submitted said it
Called the Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority, LBCJMA.
Oh, no, the drawings that you submitted said you'd be 8 feet from the fence line on the sewer easement, so therefore you'd be 2 feet in.
Yes. No, that's 10. That's no more than 9 feet.
But the easement's 10.
Yes. She had indicated, I forget the exact numbers now, but it was from center, you know, as long as you're within 2 feet of center. And I just requested permission to go a half foot over, so it was 9.5 feet from the property line.
So Colleen, if you're looking at the color rendering, I think what you're speaking of, the shed,
Yes.
that's existing at the property. Pool would be in the rear of the property.
So Bob,
I'm looking at the
when
plot
the
plan.
maximum impervious surface sheet calculation, it comes up to 3666.
Correct.
Does that include the pool?
That does not, no.
No,
That's what I thought. So this is just to have the shed area?
Just for what's existing on the property, yeah.
Okay,
But she's asking for additional impervious to construct the pool.
500 feet.
Yep.
yeah, since I'm here.
3,600. It's a 15.7%, including the pool.
Over impervious, which is not, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that big of a deal.
Right.
6%.
Okay.
15.
All right, anybody have any questions from the board? Anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this application? All right. I need a motion from the board to approve or deny this application. I'd like to put a condition on it, though. It's not, if it does pass, not to exceed the 510 square foot max of the pool. We can't go any further than 510. All right? What's the motion, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make that motion with your stipulation.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll
Oh,
call,
motion to approve.
motion, okay. I'll call the board, Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Colleen Don. Jim McMahon, yes. Okay, there you go, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Devin Smith, care of DCS Noble Ventures LLC, Hess Road, Garsonville, MD. Please come on up.
I do. Yes.
You have your mail-in, sir?
Yes.
Bring him up to me. Sorry, bring him up to me, please. Okay. How about the property, was it posted? Yes. Do you have a picture of that anywhere? Yeah, he said he's got it on an email.
You want me to email it to you?
Yeah, email it to me.
Right now?
Do you have the
Okay.
flash drive? Do you have the flash drive? I can present it on here, Ken.
Okay, great. All right, we're good, we're good to go on that.
All right.
Under the porch there.
I didn't hear you. Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate it, yep.
Okay, you can
That's good to go.
start with your presentation.
Yes, I'm here this evening to request a variance for the occupant at 829 Logan Avenue for a accessibility ramp on the right side of the home to access the basement for therapeutic and medical equipment that's going to be there, heavy-duty equipment. The occupant, I'm not sure if you remember, I was once here before for some other modifications to the home for a ramp and a platform and things of that nature. So this would allow the occupant to not have to leave the home for these treatments that he'll be having to undergo, since he's now confined to a wheelchair, and it'll allow him to utilize his entire home. So that's what I'm requesting this evening. I was gonna add, one of the setbacks, I think that's the front setback. It's actually gonna terminate at an existing walkway that's already there, so it wouldn't exceed that, which is already there, but it's already, I guess it's grandfathered in as a setback, but it does exist there, so the ramp would terminate at that front walkway, so it wouldn't go any further than what's already existing there. So.
The existing concrete sidewalk wraps around the side, so even it wrapping around the side still encroaches in that front yard setback. So you would still need the front yard setback relief.
Okay.
So the construction of this ramp is going, you said going into the basement, right?
Yes.
What does that consist of? Is there,
Just a retaining wall, because it's going down to a basement.
right,
So it would have the runoff, French drain, sump pump, everything, so the runoff would be adequate.
right.
So it would be concrete, and it would be a 5x5, basically, entrance platform at the basement level. And then it would have like a 90-degree turn, and then travel towards the front of the home and meet that current walkway that's in the front.
Single doors, double doors,
Single door, 36-inch door.
roof over it, no awning over it, no roof over it?
No awning, no roof. Just the, since it'll be below grade, it'll have like a railing, support railing around it, so no one would fall, down the platform, so.
It's about a 4% impervious variance.
We just gave it 6%. Okay, anybody from the board have any questions? Bob, you got anything to add to this?
Now, Jim, nothing to add. He's looking at 43.68%. So
Yeah,
it's
it's a 4% variance.
4% over impervious, all right. And with the setback, what's the difference? I mean, how far are we away on that?
He's requesting 9 foot, the front yard setback's 25. house sits about 11, as where it's at now.
All right, anybody from the board have any questions?
So it's 2 more feet, essentially, from where the house sits.
Correct.
Okay, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this project, this applicant? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I need a second.
I'll second.
I'll call the board. Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes. All right, there you go. Thank you. All right, next is Robert Schick, 1105 Nancy Drive, Croydon, PA. Please come on up.
Hi,
Can you raise your right hand, please?
absolutely.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr.
Melons? I'm sorry? You have your melons in the... What I have is, I went to each of my neighbors' houses and got their signatures of approval. That's good enough. And there's pictures of the zoning posters. Gotcha. Also. See it. Okay, good. We're good on this one.
Yeah, Mr. Schick.
Okay, I just bought the house back in May. I lived on Louise Avenue, a couple blocks away for the last 6 years before that. There was a pre-existing shed. It was, full of ants and termites. I tore it down and I got rid of the ant and termite problem. And I just want to replace it with a slightly bigger shed. I need something to store my my lawn equipment and my grill. That's it.
Is there an existing slab there?
There is not. What they had was pre-treated wood,
Right.
and that would be the same thing again. This is what was there.
Gotcha. Not that far yet. So you're putting a new slab in, that's what you're telling us, right?
No, I was going to use pre-treated wood again.
Okay,
The old shed was 6 by 10, the new one would be 8 by 10.
okay. All right, I'm confused. All right. Anybody have any questions? Bob, anything to add?
Just percentage-wise, Jimmy's allowed 35, he's at 42.06.
Anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this project? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Colleen Dunn,
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus,
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes. Okay,
Okay, so where do I get the permit picked up from, or? It's only 3% over. Okay.
You can come to the building and planning office tomorrow, anytime after 8:30. Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Serafin Carino, 1701 Maple Avenue, Croydon, PA. Please come on up. Serafin Carino, 1701 Maple Avenue, Croydon, PA. Going once. Going twice.
Sold.
Sold, okay, all right. So we're gonna,
It's denied.
order to have a front porch at the above location. Do we need a continuance for that, or are we just gonna skip it?
I mean, number 4.
Number 4.
It's up to the board. I mean, you can continue on your own if you want to do that.
Okay, so,
Is there a phone number for this guy?
The townships had no correspondence if they were gonna show up or not.
okay,
We got the
all right,
application.
then, they didn't ask for a continuance, we are not gonna give them a continuance. I mean, if that's okay with the board, I'm not,
Works for me.
not dictatorship here.
Yeah, I would just vote not to give a continuance.
Okay, I need a motion for, not to give continuance for, number 4.
I'll make a motion for no continuance for number 4.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Sandra Suarez, 5724 Fleetwing Drive, Levittown, PA. Please come on up.
Can you bring up your mail-ins? Thank you.
Of course. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Understand?
Yes.
Can you bring up your mail-ins and your posting? Thank you. Okay, we're good.
Jed, you can proceed. Do you have any,
I just came because they denied the permit.
okay. Is this already built?
Yes.
Okay. My favorite. So it says here, was it, when hired the contractor, he promised everything would be filed correctly. He assured me all documents were in order. The porch was constructed and then, he disappeared when I reached out to ask him about the permits, wants to request. So that's the issue you have here, so,
The first time they deny it, they say, my understanding, they say like the house, it was a corner property. They asking for measures of the corner and the house.
Wait a second, they're asking for,
In the first time, my understanding, they say like take measures of the corner property. Yes. And it's in the middle of the road. Now they asking in the second letter for measures on the both sides of the property, and I don't have nothing. So my understanding is a variance in there.
Jim, what happened was it was an unclear plot plan, and then I had a meeting with Mrs. Suarez, and cleared everything up. And then, that's why she's here today, for the front yard.
okay.
Sorry, on her application, it says that there's a discrepancy with the minimum yards required. Has that been satisfied or resolved?
No, the discrepancy would be the front yard setback.
tell from this diagram, but what is the setback she actually has?
I think it was around 9 foot 11 inches, Ken.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 10 foot 3 inches is what it is.
So the contractor didn't go by the plans that were submitted, or there was no permit or plans, nothing submitted to the township? They just built it and then,
Yeah, they built the porch. We got a complaint that they were working without permits. We followed up with it. And then she applied for the permits. When she handed it in, they were denied for the front yard setback. They were denied for the front yard setback.
does anybody have any questions from the board? All right, I'm just gonna make a statement here that, listen, you hire a contractor, I understand, but I'm talking to everybody that's, the 10 people that are listening out in TV land. No matter if you get a contractor or not, please, as a homeowner, it's your ultimate responsibility to follow up on these permits. Call the township, ask questions, because there's a lot of shady contractors out there, and they will take advantage of you regardless, So please, you need a permit for everything. And when you do hire a contractor, just check up on them. That's all I got to say. So, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this application? Okay. Pleasure of the board. Any motion for or against?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second? On the question? Anybody?
I'll second.
Okay. Colleen Dunn. Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Jim McMahon, me saying no ain't gonna matter anyway, so yes. Okay, you can keep it up, but please, permits, everybody. All right, number 6. United American Muslim Association, 4800 Beaver Dam Road, Bristol, PA. Please come on up.
Good evening, folks. My name's Greg Shore. I represent the United American Muslim Association, and I have a packet prepared with the mailings along with the posted notice.
Okay. Now, they were in front of this board before, recently.
They were back in May.
Okay. Same property?
Different property.
That's what I thought, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, go ahead, Chairman.
Yeah, you got all the mailings?
Yeah, I did hand them out.
Yep, you may proceed then.
Thank you.
I did, thank you.
As Mr. Fetterman noted, we were here back in May on another property asking permission, which that was denied at that point. So I'm going to go into a brief history and try and be as concise as possible, keeping in mind that we were in front of you in May. I don't want to regurgitate everything that occurred then. So, with your permission, I'll simply say that the United American Muslim Association has existed for approximately 40 years as a nonprofit in Bristol Township for roughly 17 years. They specialize in running schools for boys and girls. We're here today to explain the historic use of the building at 4800 Beaver Dam Road, and ask permission for both an accessory use as a dormitory on the second floor of the building, along with dimensional variances to allow UAMA to have between 12 and 20 girls living on the second floor of that dormitory area. As I stated, at this facility, which they had been using for an extended time period, well over a decade, the first floor is a prayer and education area. The second floor of the facility had been used as a dormitory area. Director McTeague came out and noted several violations with the code, which are noted through the application as well as the PowerPoint that we have in front of us. I would note that the dorm is just for sleeping. The dorm has bunk beds in all 4 rooms upstairs. If it would be helpful to the board at any point, we can refer to both pictures and an architectural diagram of the facility, and in particular the second floor, to show the board what it looks like. We would note that it's my understanding that there's nothing additional needed as far as parking in the facility. I believe that we are in compliance with all regulations there. There are no buses that go in and out during rush hours, no crossing guards. This is a self-contained facility. I would also suggest that at this facility, it's a very quiet use. At both this facility as well as the facility for boys that UAMA has, which is on Bristol Emily Road, there are upwards of 5 or 6 dozen students that have lived there, that are currently living at the boys' facility without any issue for upwards of a decade from the police. As with last time that we were in front of you, I've prepared a proffer, and the proffer is prepared because of a bit of a language barrier. Mr. Kaya would testify for UAMA if he were called upon. If it would be okay with the board, I'll simply offer a proffer and confirm with Mr. Kaya that that would be his adopted statement, if that's permissible.
10?
It's fine.
Thank you. So if Mr. Kaya were called to testify.
Let me just make sure one thing. He does understand you, though, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've had many meetings with him at this point, and we converse freely. We've discussed the proffer, and for today's purposes, it's better coming from me than from him. Sure.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name and spell it, please?
Haji Kaya, Haci, and last name is Kaya.
Thank you.
If Mr. Kaya were called to testify, he would state that he's the Assistant Secretary of UAMA and specifically works at the Beaver Dam location that we're discussing here tonight. UAMA is a religious nonprofit organization registered in the Commonwealth and Bucks County that uses a good percentage of their resources to provide schooling for its members. The schooling is both traditional school through the Pennsylvania Cyber School system, as well as faith-based religious programming for young teens. Specifically in this facility would be between 12 and 20 females between the ages of 12 and 15 that will be staying in the dormitory area on the second floor of the facility. UAMA has been using this particular building on Beaver Dam Road since 2005, when they rented the building in a rent-to-buy situation, with the purchase being completed in 2007. In 2007, continuously through 2021, this facility was used both as an educational facility as well as a dormitory on the second floor. Until 2021, it's Mr. Kaya's understanding that there had been no recorded code violations at the facility. The building is staffed by 4 full-time staff, 2 of which would live at the facility, along with several volunteers assisting the programming at the facility. The students would live there during the traditional school year, returning home during holidays, the summer, and approximately once a month over the weekend to see their families. At the facility, there's constant oversight of the girls by staff, with alcohol and, of course, drugs strictly prohibited. Historically, there have been no issues for which police intervention has been needed at both this facility as well as their other facility housing boys on Bristol Emily Road. Neighboring properties include both a motel and a church, both facilities which UAMA share a very good relationship, sharing parking facilities if ever necessary. There's no appreciable difference in traffic with the dormitory, as there are no buses needed, no crossing guard, no in and out during working hours, and everything self-contained with no meaningful addition of traffic with the dormitory. As a result of the recent code enforcement violations filed, measurements were taken by an architect at Mr. Kaya's direction. The total square footage of the space within the facility is just under 7,600. We believe that would allow us to have certainly over 20 kids staying at the facility. However, we're asking for half the maximum. The square footage of the dormitory is just under 2,000, specifically 1992 square feet. That leaves 26% of the facility being used for dormitory use within the building, and far less when you include parking areas. The property itself is just under 0.4 acres. It's a 16,000 foot footprint at the facility. Thus, I think causing for the request for a variance, particularly from that section of the code. That would conclude Mr. Kai's proffer. I would simply ask Mr. Kai if you agree with everything that I've said.
Yes, I do.
And you adopt that as your testimony?
Yes.
Thank you. And just some brief comment, and then I'll wrap up if I could. You know, I would simply say that this facility has been used for 15 years without incident. You know, I certainly respect the job that Mr. McTigg has, and the fact that we are compelled to comply with the code. I would state that we are in active discussions with other properties in an attempt to locate the girls in an area that's more cohesive for what the programming calls for. That being said, and as you recall back in May, one alternative sort of fell by the wayside, and we are looking for a continued stopgap until we're able to put our best foot forward on another facility. You know, I'd suggest that often the board, you know, is looking at potential violations relating in a dorm scenario that relate to noise, that relate to drugs, that relate to alcohol, you know, the typical things that we worry about with teenagers and young adults. You know, this is a scenario where these particular individuals are choosing to be at this facility. Their families have gone through similar programming, including their parents, and you know, it's a key to their religious training, you know, which we all have respect for. So, you know, with that said, you know, we would respectfully ask for both the accessory use as well as the variances to be approved.
Okay. So, any questions from the board?
I do.
Yeah, Colleen.
When you guys were here in May, I asked a question, I just want to make sure it's still in place. Is there, you said it's a charter school, so therefore it would not be subject to any public funding?
It's a private school.
You said private charter.
So the
Cyber school.
yeah, the kids are educated during the day through public cyber school. At night or on the weekends, they're educated with faith-based religious programming. So, you know, with the cyber school, you know, that is publicly funded, as you folks are well aware. However, the bulk of their day is spent with private education through UAMA.
Just to be clear, though, in May, they did say that they did not get any public funding for their educational purposes.
And let me clarify with Mr. Kai, if I could. Do you get any public funding?
No, what I think she's trying to understand that we get any funds
From the state?
from state to run the school. Basically, those students, they are coming to us, they have their own schooling online, which are this state's residents, and they either registered to Pam Foster, CCA, Cyber PA. So it's families chose one of those schools to register. It has nothing to do with our programming. So
Let me,
directly or indirectly, we don't get any funding from state.
let me,
Say it again, directly?
Or indirectly, we don't get any funds for schooling from state or no public funding basically on that part.
let me just, you good with that?
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't approving a zoning variance for something that would be deemed a charter school.
Understood. Thank you.
So Bob, they've been renting this property for how many years have you been?
They actually own the property and have owned it for 15 years.
Okay.
It was a rent to buy prior to that.
So you've been using it as a school and a dormitory for the last several years then, or no?
Over a decade,
Over a
yes.
decade.
So Jim, to touch on that, so what happened was our fire inspectors were out at the property,
Okay,
and when they went to the second floor, I found 22 bunk beds, and then we went out and followed up on a complaint, because that's a fire hazard and overcrowding issue, so
okay,
this is where this stemmed from.
okay. I got you.
And we certainly are more than willing to accept limitations on the number of students that can be on the second floor. I mean, UAMA wants to be in compliance, certainly with the fire code, and wants these kids protected. So there's an expectation that, that there should be a limitation on the number of kids. There had been upwards of 25 to 30 living there. The expectation moving forward would be between 15 and 20. So that's where, at least we believe, it would be a comfortable amount moving forward. And the goal, as I said, is to be out of that facility within the next several years.
So I'm not a fire inspector, but Bob, do you have any idea what the limit is here?
So by code, it's 12 students per acre.
Okay.
But I just want to let the board know, they're asking for variances from section A, B, and C.
Right, all
So
three.
if you were to approve a variance for B, it would allow for more than 12 students. So just to give you a
So
heads up.
we not necessarily have to give them the variance for B.
Yeah, and they're also asking for a variance on the minimum square foot that they're allowed to occupy, so
In fact, they're not actually dorms. They're not separated dorms, right? It's open.
it's just one big,
So the 180 square foot requirement essentially is if you have like a walled-off dorm, if you will.
exactly.
The way the second floor is constructed is that there will be students living in 4 separate rooms. And there would be max 8 students in each room, more likely between 4 and 6.
So what I see on this plan is not accurate in terms of
Well,
what your intended use. Because here it's, just let me finish.
Sure.
Here it says 501 square feet, 11 occupants, 628, 13 occupants, 406, 406 square feet, 9 occupants, and then in the fourth area, 285 square feet for 6 occupants. So are you saying that this diagram, this plan does not depict how you intend to use it in
Yes.
terms of the number of
Yes, the
students?
number would be far less than that.
Okay. And you're saying it's 15 to 20 in total?
Correct. And I mean, I have pictures of the rooms within a PowerPoint if you'd like to take a look. Mr. Kaiwa,
The calculations architect made on those plans per fire code. The calculations the architect made per fire code, not the relief that we're really seeking for. So those are not the numbers for that's going to be on those second floor. Those are fire calculations basically that architect made.
Okay, but the diagram I'm looking at, the plan, this is a plan of the second floor of your building, correct?
That's right, that's right.
that would be the maximum we believe would be allowed under the fire code. Those numbers on there.
But that has nothing to do with the zoning code?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand.
So Ken, the way the plan sits now, that's not how the second floor is laid out right now correctly? It's just one big room, right?
Oh, it's correct. The layout is correct. It's just the calculations you have over there per fire code, not the zoning code that we're seeking relief today.
So So the way the building sits now, there's 3 separate rooms upstairs?
4 separate rooms, plus one small room for caretaker.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 5 rooms, basically. One room only for caretaker.
Okay, so the plan shows, based on the fire code, up to 39 occupants, but that's not what they're requesting.
Correct, we're requesting between 15 and 20.
Okay, and
And the big issue, I believe, and maybe Mr. McTeague, your insight is always helpful. The big issue is the acreage. I mean, in my mind, you know, there's simply the footprint of the facility, you know, it simply does not correspond with what's needed as far as the residency the residency percentages at that location.
Yeah, because it's less than an acre.
Correct. I mean, that would allow for maybe 2 or 3 people to live there. You know, and the suggestion would be that, you know, we've had dozens of people living there safely for a prolonged period of time. This is going to be for a short period of time moving forward with consistent oversight by the staff.
So, go ahead, Ken.
I know, I just want to bring attention to the variance they're seeking. So there, as I add up the square foot in these rooms, it's 1,859 square feet. So if you divide that by 180, you're allowed 10 residents by this code. So if you're asking for 15 to 20, you're essentially asking for double the amount of residents that you're permitted under the zoning code, correct?
I would, yes, although I would note that our calculations are a little bit different than yours. Maybe it's a different calculator. We're at 1972 square feet.
I didn't include I just included the rooms and the square footage on here.
Gotcha. In essence, yes. You know, you're correct that breaks down to 10, 11, 12 kids based on your calculation. In the long run, we will comply with, of course, whatever the board decides.
Yeah, of course. So if the board said you could have 12, you'll live with it?
Yes.
Just trying to understand what you're asking for relative to the code.
I basically want to add that, as Mr. McTagg mentioned, that the problem came up. He said there's a problem, and he said we need to remove that violation, and he came inspected. Since then, you know, we're complying with, you know, whatever the zoning officer or town inspector are saying. So basically, or town inspectors, whatever they are saying, we're basically following their instructions on any part.
Okay, sorry,
So
Joe.
we can, correct me if I'm wrong, we're at the conclusion now, if we grant this variance, all 3, A, B, and C, it's not going to conflict, there's going to be no conflict with the fire code whatsoever.
That's my understanding.
Okay,
That's our understanding as well.
okay,
But, yeah, the fire code allows for more, so,
Right.
yeah.
right. So right now, we're just trying to, you're trying to pinpoint a number. Is that?
That's really what it comes down to, because the acre's not there, we know that, there's nothing you can do about that. The 180 square feet of space for each dormitory resident, that would be met if you limited it to about 10 or 11.
So let me ask you a question. Were you guys like shooting high and you were at a certain number? Like you start at 20, you want to go, like you'd be fine with like?
I mean, quite honestly, I mean, 20 is the number that they have prepared for, and prior to this occurring, the violations, that was the number of families that were committed to this program moving forward. I mean, understanding, you know, the important job of the board, I mean, we're certainly willing to live with whatever decision you come to, understanding we're requesting a variance.
So this board says 20. The fire marshal's not going to roll in there one day and there's going to be 22 beds in there, right?
No, this will be strictly complied with.
All right.
But
Yeah.
Total square footage of livable space on that second floor is 1,930 square foot from this plan.
That's what you were saying.
That would allow for 10.72
Right.
occupants.
Same, basically the same number.
All right, anybody from the board have any other questions? All right, so at this time, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this project? State your name for the record and get sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Can you state your name and spell it, please?
Ahmet Bolat. Ahmet Bolat.
Thank you.
So I would like to clarify that when this building was bought back in 2005, I was
2007, I think.
2007, yeah. That I was actually attending this place in the summer times. They was giving me education, religious education, and also helping out with my school classes as well. Back then, it was a boys' facility. They changed it to a girls' facility now. But I just want to state that they are very helpful. I have excelled in my religious classes. I have learned my religious very well. And I'm really happy with them, so I would like to ask for you guys to approve it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Anybody else?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
State your name, please.
Halal Turkman,
Spell it, please.
HILALTURKMEN.
Thank you.
I also attended this facility at a very young age. It's great. We spent the summers there. We would also attend on the weekends for religious studies. It also does bring the community together. I'm still friends with all of the members that I met there. Occasionally, we do use it just for a few hours, sort of kind of like for a Bible study-ish. Till this day, it holds great memories, great staff, and I would love to see other kids go through the same thing and experience this as well.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name, please, and spell it?
Furkan Balik, Furkan.
K-A-N?
Yes. Last name Balak.
B-A-L-A-K.
Ik.
Thank you.
In addition to what our other community members have stated, I too have been part of this community since the opening in 2005. I stand here today at 23 years old, so basically, ever since I was a little kid, I've been part of this, along with my family members and parents as well. Other than the fact that it has always been a full-time facility and where we were able to complete both our academic and religious studies, I would like to support this statement by saying it has also allowed us to excel not only academically and religiously, but also in personal growth and character. We do have a limited amount of members here today, but if we were to gather the number of people who have been through these facilities and seen any progress or anything in their lives or where they are today, then it would be a lot more than this room. There are a lot of living examples of this, and here in the United States, giving that real cultural education, academic education, religious education, I have seen that these facilities have been able to do this to an extent that I have not seen in any other place. And as somebody that was born here, especially I reside here in New Jersey as well, my commute is very short. It has always been a big part of our lives, and I continue to be part of this community today, as well as our other members here. So I feel that it is very necessary for this facility to continue and progress and allow for students to board, of course, with the board's permission. And yeah, this is what I have to say in support.
Thank you. Okay.
Can you raise your right hand, please?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the true self you got?
I do.
Can you state your name and spell it, please?
William Mora.
William?
Yes, M-O-R-A.
How you spell that, sir?
M-O-R-A.
M-O-R-A.
Mm-hmm.
Is the mic on?
Yes. Okay, I am the pastor of the church that was mentioned here. Okay, exactly across the street from the mosque. Okay, I do not have any problem with the proposal or whatever they trying to do. However, I would like to have a little bit of assurance that this may not be turned into like a halfway house in the future, or or a rehab thing, because it'll be completely different, and it will affect me or us, the church, and I'm only concerned about that. I do not have any problem with the program that they're trying to implement. Okay, I believe I'm a religious person, and I hope the best for them, just like I do for me. Okay, for my organization too. So that's all I care. I hope that, and I think that maybe if they wanted to turn it to something else, maybe they have to come in to see you guys, right? Okay. Well, thank you
Approval
very
would be
much.
only for the, only for the
agree with,
requested use.
That's right. So if they sell it or they try to do something else, it's only for what they came to us for at this
Okay.
time. They want to change it or make it a halfway house, they have to come back to.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. I guess that's it.
I believe so.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or concerns? Okay. Pleasure of the board. I'll make a motion to approve. I need a second.
I'll second.
Wait, can I?
Oh, I'm sorry, on the condition. That's right. Go ahead, Colleen.
Oh, you got it.
I apologize, that's my fault. So I spoke with the other members on the board, and we came to the conclusion that 15 is going to be the magic number.
Thank you.
That's fine, that's, okay?
So there's two conditions, 15, and it's only approved for this particular use, as you've described and as will be clear from the record.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. So back to the motion. I make a motion to approve. I need a second.
I'll second.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes. All right, there you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, next is Iconic Motors, LLC.
I can circle back to number 4, Seraphin Carrena. We did receive last-minute correspondence for continuance till January. They've never picked up their mail-in to give to the neighbors, and they will be
Okay,
out of the country
so-
for December.
So to rescind the no,
And grant, when do they want the continuance till, next month?
January.
January.
Yep.
Okay.
all right. So number 4,
thought
I
I
need
saw
a
that.
motion for continuance. I'll make that motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it.
No. Okay.
I have something for you guys as well. I already have it. Can you just pass them down? I do my research before I come in.
I am. Andrew.
They're already advertising, they're selling cars.
Just the one under Iconic Motor.
Okay, you guys already did your mail-ins, I guess? All right, you were here
He has a picture to show just the notice that it was reposted, but we were here back in September. The applicant was representing himself, and
Right.
and the appropriate notice was given at that time.
Okay.
So my name is Andrew Griffin. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Iconic Motor LLC. I have the managing member for the applicant here with me, Ariel Sedano. We're here seeking a special exception under 205-36B5, D17A of the Code of Ordinances. Essentially, we were here back in September. The applicant was alone. You advised the applicant that he should retain counsel because it appeared there was some confusion about basically the use of this property and then also a business that's also on the property and what use they were doing. So if I could just refer to the screen. The first thing here is just a copy of the lease for the property. I provide that just to show that we have an interest in the property pursuant to the code.
Andrew, if I can, what were the requested variances for?
So it's for a special exception. The special exception standard is 205-36B5 D17. And that's because under 205-36A, the sale of vehicles is not a permitted use. So if you scroll down to basically the next set of documents.
Got it. This is the original packet. Number 8.
So what I'm showing here, and this is just to kind of orient the board to the property, because again, in watching the video from the last meeting, I could tell there was some confusion about what's going on the tax parcel. So this property is a little bit unusual in the sense that there are multiple uses and multiple addresses all at the same tax parcel ID number. So what I'm showing here is along State Road, there's actually Murphy's Auto Repair that's occupying what's marked here as 408 and 410. Then it appears that there's a residence at 406. Then if you go along 4th Avenue, there's also multiple uses. So we have Iconic Motor, which I've highlighted here and shown, on 4th Avenue, but historically the address that's been used is the 412 State Road, and it's just been referred to as the rear, so it's a little odd. In the middle, occupying 801A and then also 801B, there's that Beck's Ice House. Not sure if that's still in business or not. I was unable to tell. And then to the right of it, there was a lot of questions about this Your Buddy Steve's auto service and sales shop. So essentially, we sent a right-to-know request to the zoning officer in order to review the property files and figure out what is going on at the Your Buddy Steve's property, and I'll get into that. The other thing, if you see, I'm showing here where there's parking provided on the property. This parking is dedicated strictly to Iconic Motor. So you'll see that there's 4 double spaces that can have 8 spaces along the fence line of 4th Avenue to the south. And then to the north, there's 3 parking spaces. These have all been lined, none of which block the bays. They're all to the side of the bays. And the one in the middle is actually a handicap spot. So if you could please just go to the next page. So what I'm showing here is just a Google map view, again, just to help orient you to the property. So the 2 bays on the left are Iconic Motor, what we're here for. In the center, again, is the Beck's Ice, and then to the right is the Your Buddy Steve's. Next page, please. Sorry to...
That's Steve Wing, right?
Correct.
Okay.
These next couple pictures, and we can just scroll through them quickly, I'm just showing the parking area. This has been freshly lined. My understanding is pursuant to communication with the zoning officer previously. You can just kind of go through them. So again, this is showing those 4 double spaces. This is just showing where those parking spaces are in relation to the bay door. So there's one to the right, the handicap one in the middle, and then to the left there's another one beside the door there. So if you don't mind, you can go to the next. Again, just showing the handicap space, and we can move on. So this is just showing, again, we sent 2 right-to-know requests on October 11th and October 17th. And what we realized, first of all, you know, in my office is this is one tax parcel ID number, which is unusual to have this many uses on a 0.8 acre property. We then were able to uncover, and this is really what's being provided here if you scroll down, a copy of a zoning decision that goes back to September 10th, 2018. And there is a zoning decision if you go to page 4. And again, it's a little unusual because this zoning decision is for this tax parcel number, but is referring to the address, which is just your buddy Steve's.
Right.
And essentially what he proposed at this time was to have between 15 and 20 cars that he would have inventory of, used cars, on the property. And he basically communicated that he would offer these cars for sale only on the internet. And that use was permitted with some conditions which are shown on page 4 of the decision. I think it's at the top, I'm sorry. So it's these A, B, C, D, and E are basically the conditions that were put on that property in order to allow it. So there will be no towing services provided to the property, that the limit would not exceed the number of parking spaces, which were these 30 spaces he had, advertising only on the internet, and that the business would not have any walk-in, basically, sales, that it would be an internet-only business, and that there would be no parking in the street.
And the board's decision back then was for an expansion of the existing business. Wing's business was an auto repair.
Correct.
And he came in to seek an expansion of that, so he was operating under an allowed use.
Correct.
I'm just pointing it out that it's not
Yeah.
exactly the same
Well,
application.
So my veerment...
Or I'll let you tell us why it is.
Yeah, so my veerment in response to that would be that the use, as we're using it on the property currently, as the collision repair shop, is currently a permitted use under the ordinance. But having this accessory use to allow these car sales is not. So I would opine that it's essentially the same application at this point in time.
Andrew, I just want to clean something up for the record.
Sure.
When you first started, you said that you were requesting a special exception for 36B5, which would allow auto sales of new vehicles.
Correct. So if you look at that standard, and you go to its B, so it's D17B, it talks about the sale of used automobiles, trucks, motorcycles, boats, and recreational vehicles and automobile repair work shall be permitted as accessory uses, provided that the requirements for use D18 automotive repair are met. So it's sort of the primary use here is the automotive repair. We've met those standards. So we're just trying to have this separate accessory use. It's a little bit odd how it lines up, but...
You're correct in your citation, so.
Correct. So essentially what we're proposing is to mirror these conditions, because the applicant, what he's seeking to do is basically obtain a dealer's license from the state. And the reason he wants that dealer's license is so that he can go to the auction and he can buy cars that he then needs to repair the title, do some repairs on the vehicle, and then turn around and basically export these vehicles to the Dominican Republic. His intention is not to have any cars on the property with a price on it or listed for sale or have anybody come to the property to see these. He's not going to have any advertising, no local advertising, no internet website to show locally. So for all intents and purposes, if you drove past this property, the impact would remain the same. You would not know whether a car was there because it was getting the collision services or it was one of these 1 to 3 vehicles that he's purchased to turn around and sell.
So is it your proffer that you, if the board were to approve this, that you would agree to the same conditions in Wing's decision and whatever else you're saying?
So I have slightly different conditions just for this, but the conditions that we would be willing to agree to again, to have this impact minimal and to confine it, which I know was your main concern previously.
Okay.
One, there will not be any vehicles offered for sale at the property. 2, there will not be any customer traffic related to the purchase or sale of vehicles at the property. 3, the applicant will not hire any employees to act as sales representatives from the property. 4, there will not be any signage or advertising of vehicles for sale at the property or locally, other than one small exception, and that is pursuant to the state requirements to get a dealer's license, you have to actually display your license number on your sign. So he basically will just put dealer license number underneath the existing sign, but it's not going to say used car dealership or anything. 5, the applicant will never have more than 17 vehicles parked at the property for any purpose, including for the repair shop or repair for sale internationally, including no more than 6 vehicles in the bays inside and 11 vehicles in the parking spaces outside, including the one handicap. So essentially, we're limiting him to the number of spaces that are at the property. So there's 6 spaces in the bays, and then also the 11 outside. That doesn't include the 1 handicap space, though.
Those conditions you've just read, are they in your packet that you just handed up?
They are not, but after this meeting, if you'd like, I'll email them to you directly as I've just stated them.
Okay, they're on the record, but I'd like to have them.
Okay, absolutely. And then just to kind of move this along, because I know there was testimony before, I just offered to do what the prior applicant did, and I'll just testify by summary on behalf of Mr. Sedano to move this along.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
He understands you. We've already heard from him, so.
Correct. So Mr. Sedano, if he were called to testify, he would testify as follows.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Spell your name for me, please.
Wait.
Virgilio Sedano.
I apologize. I may have made an error. Is this the same fellow that was here in front of the board before or not?
Yes, it absolutely is.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's okay. Have to ask.
Yeah, that's okay. If called to testify.
Can you spell your name, please?
Virgilio. Virgilio.
Virgilio.
Sedano. Cedeno. Yep.
So if called to testify, Mr. Sedano would testify that he's the managing member of Iconic Motors LLC, that Iconic Motors currently has 3 employees, all of which are employed in the collision repair business. The property currently has 8 parking spaces next to the fence, which are located within 4 double spots. The property also has 3 parking spaces in front of the building, one of which is a handicap space and none of which block the 2 bay doors. The applicant would also testify that on a typical business day for the existing auto collision shop, there are approximately 6 cars parked outside and 2 cars parked inside. With regard to the dealership license that the applicant is seeking, his intention is to purchase vehicles at auction, repair them at the property, and then sell them internationally to the Dominican Republic. And the applicant does not intend to have any local sales or persons coming onto the property for local sale. The applicant would state that he only intends to purchase 1 to 3 vehicles at auction at a time and will not purchase additional cars until those cars are sold and exported internationally. The applicant would further state that if the vehicles are drivable at the auction, that he would drive them to his property. If they're not drivable at the auction, obviously with any car that's been in an accident that has to come to a collision shop, it would be towed, and that would be a third-party service that would provide that. And finally, the applicant would just state that he heard and understands the conditions as I placed them on the record and is agreeable to those conditions.
All right. Did you understand what your counsel said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you adopt that as your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so I recall when he was here last time, I kind of told him to go get, representation.
Right.
But I also asked him, and this is all I want to know,
Sure.
to find out what the difference is between what he wants to do and what we gave my buddy Steve's, variances.
Sure.
So I know you explained it to me before, and I'd like to hear it from you again, and then I would like to hear it from my solicitor on what he thinks of the difference.
So I think, first and foremost, based upon the testimony that's been provided today versus the testimony that was provided at that proceeding, it's a matter of scale. This is scaled extremely down. The testimony at that proceeding was, I'm going to store 15 to 20 cars of inventory on site, and then I'm going to advertise them for sale on the internet. As a part of that, you get into sort of this gray area of, are people coming to look at the cars on the lot, or are they coming to the site to see them? And also, he has a larger parking lot, but he was able to store those 15 to 20 vehicles separately from his other business. His only cap was at the total of 30. Here, we're saying, look, we're buying 1 to 3 at a time. They might be in the outside on the off-street parking, or they might be located inside the bay, but we're confined to our 17 spaces, and he's not looking to basically turn over these cars until he's sold them and then goes back to the auction and buys more. no internet aspect, no advertising aspect. It's basically, he's doing the collision service, but he's doing it on behalf of himself, fixing these cars and then selling them internationally. But it's not a used car dealership. The other one really is. This is more, we want the dealer license, we want the ability to have that, to have the benefits that go with that in buying and selling cars at auction. But the goal here is just to export them internationally.
All right. Ken, how do you, what's your take on this?
Well, okay. First thing I want to say is I haven't looked at this decision since 2018.
Understood.
But from what I'm hearing and the conditions, it's no more expansive than what was approved last time.
Well, that's the point I was trying to make when we came to it. I wanted to know what we gave Steve, because I took it as a precedent was set on that property. If what we gave Steve, we're not giving this gentleman, might be an issue. It's two different types of applications, I understand that, but that's what I was getting at when he was here last time.
And
I just want to say, it's not precedent in the classic sense of the word. You could deny this application, and I'm sure council, if you appealed it, would point this decision out, and the court would take it under consideration, but it's not absolutely binding.
Okay.
So I want you to be clear on that.
you are correct that if it were appealed, I think it would trigger an estoppel argument that arguably this tax parcel number already has
Yep.
a permit, for example, if Steve decided, his lease runs out and your buddy Steve decides to lease out these bays that he's currently leasing, there's really nothing that this board could do to stop him from expanding into those other bays, and as long as he kept within the conditions. So I think it does trigger an estoppel argument that it's
There's no
arguably been
argument
permitted.
about that. I
Yeah.
agree with you, but I'm not the judge and you're not the judge, so who knows how well it would be taken.
Absolutely, there's a gray area there.
Bob, your feelings?
I'm just reading through the use, and it says for the new automotive sales, no more than 1 ton hauling, so that's usually 1 car at a time. And he's stating he's gonna have 3 at a time, so I'm just trying to, it's a mess down there right now, and I wasn't here in 2018, but if you drive down that street, whatever Steve was approved for, it's way too much.
Yeah, there were neighbors, there were some testimony from,
Yeah.
again, I'd have to go back through the opinion and the
There was
transcript,
conditions
but,
set upon it too, but I don't see them here today. Do you remember what they were, Ken?
yeah, I read them. Sorry.
And I believe they're on page 4, if that helps.
Yeah, I was just reading them. Yeah, so the conditions of this approval was there be no towing services provided from the property. The limit on the number of vehicles permitted at this location at any one time would not exceed 30 cars for all purposes, i.e. repairs, cars for sales. Number of vehicles will be determined in accordance with and in consultation with Bristol Township engineer. The only advertising would be on the internet and not on the lot. The part of the applicant's business involving used car sales would not be operated as a walk-in used car lot, and there will be no parking in the street.
Okay. And he occupies 4 garage bays at that property, right?
I believe he does.
How many do you
Yeah,
have at
I
your
mean-
location, sir? How many? How many garage bays do you have at your location? 2.
So he has 2. I believe Steve also only has 2. If you go back to the Google map, I believe he just has 2 as well, but he.
I mean, maybe Steve's not operating in accordance with this decision, so,
I'm just trying to prevent it from turning into that, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that concerns us, well, me, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but it's concerns, like, you guys that we give these variances to are supposed to be, like, stewards of, what we decided. And and sometimes they don't, and it ruins it for everybody else, you know, so, that's why, you know, we're concerned with the application.
You know, and again, I watched the video from the prior proceeding. I certainly understand that concern. I understand what happens when you create a sort of a hard to monitor condition. But I think the way we're getting around that with this application and helping you as well as the zoning officer is by saying, no local sale, no internet sale. This is strictly an internal operation to export vehicles.
Fix and export, that's what you're saying,
Yep.
basically. Okay, anybody from the board have any more questions?
I'm just looking at something here.
Yeah, it's one tax parcel, as has been testified to. It's 511-114, it's the parcel number.
Yeah, so that whole corner of Fourth Avenue is the same tax parcel.
I'm just looking at the decision from 2018, because it said 30 cars on the parcel, so is it the whole thing, or just?
You know what?
That's my question.
The way,
I
the
understand.
way it was conditioned, Colleen, it seems like they were supposed to follow up with consultation with the Bristol Township engineer to see how many
Exactly.
vehicles will.
Yeah.
I'll make sure we follow up with the Bristol Township engineer if it's a condition.
It
I can't
says
speak from a predecessor.
The condition is the limit on the number of vehicles permitted at this location. Doesn't say property per se, but
I was asking if it was one tax parcel and if they were already over with the 30 cars based on this decision.
I don't know how many cars are out there, so.
That are on the location, like existing.
The question that's being asked is if the board granted Steve what he requested with these conditions, does that apply to the entire property so that there'd be no more room for approval? So that if there's a 30-car maximum, it would include your client's cars as well? That's the question that's being asked. I don't think we have a clear answer. I couldn't give that tonight without going back and looking at the transcript. I know Tom Heckard presented it, and he's usually pretty thorough, but.
Yeah, and I think the key to that argument, in my opinion, and again, I've had the benefit, obviously, of reviewing this for quite a period of time before I came
I just
here.
saw this tonight, and I had no idea you were bringing it, but that's fine.
When you look at the first page, and it talks about the property, they confine it to 803A, and then also they give these dimensions of 78 by 43, which would appear, again, when you look at what is the size of the entire lot, it's not that. So that would appear just to slice off what he then was renting. And what I'll say is that this property is the entire thing is owned by one entity, and that entity is leasing these different spaces to different owners.
And clear, on this diagram you provided, Steve's lot number is here, so that's how it was, I'm sure that's how it was presented, but again, I didn't have the benefit of reading the opinion before right now, but I tend to agree with you.
Yeah, and you know, what I'll say is how many he argued and he claimed at that time that he had these 30 spots that he could use. We have 11 spots outside. They're clean. It's 4 double spots and 3 in the front. We're saying we will have no more vehicles on that property than what can be there, and then whatever's inside the 6 in the bay. It's a cleaner property. There's more free space. If you look at it, there's areas to drive around. We're not looking to junk it up with a bunch of cars.
Okay. Now, since you're very familiar with the prior decision, so tell me, because you read off the conditions that you said you would agree to.
Sure.
Even though it seemed to me there was a fair amount of testimony about intentions, I would take those as conditions. If you're going to intend to do something, then that's what you're agreeing to. That's how you're going to operate your business. But
yeah, absolutely.
My question to you is, and that's good that you said that. My question is, out of these 5 conditions on page 4 of the 2018 opinion, which one are you not agreeing to? Because you said, I asked you if you agreed to all these conditions.
So I think
obviously it wouldn't be 30 cars because you can't fit them, but that's besides the point.
So I think we're not agreeing to, because I think it's unrealistic for a collision shop to agree to. There will be no towing services provided from the property. Now, I know that it says from, but I think that creates an ambiguity. Are we saying to and from or just from? And
No,
I'm
I
s-
just, to my
Yeah.
understanding of that, again, without going back to the transcript, would be from. You can't tow cars out of there. You can tow a car in there if it needs to be towed. And the purpose of that was, we don't want to have a towing operation there.
Yeah, and I mean, we would agree to a condition that we won't have he will not operate a towing operation from the property, but it is a collision center. I mean, if a car is totaled and it gets towed there, it gets towed there.
So if
and-
it, so for example, you're saying if a car is brought in and it's totaled and he can't repair it, it may have to be towed back out. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I mean,
I just want the board to understand the range of possibilities.
Here's a simpler question. Does Iconic Motors tow vehicles?
no,
All right, and you're not going to be a towing shop?
no.
Okay.
But there are tow trucks, obviously, that come to
I
and from the
understand that, but
property.
you agree to that as a condition? That
Yes,
you're not going to have
yes,
a towing operation?
if that's your interpretation, yes.
It's my interpretation.
I mean, I'd like another condition to be, if we do pass this, that there's no unloading of vehicles on the street as well.
Not a problem. Loading and unloading vehicles on the street. You need to bring the tow truck into the actual property and have it come off the tow truck on the property.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. All right, so does she have to be sworn in, Cindy?
Yes.
So her name is spelled, just for the record. It's Jairus, Jairis, Burnell, Bernal.
Jaris? Bernal. Can you raise your
Correct.
right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that you will accurately translate the testimony given forth tonight?
I do.
The board's asking a question, whether you would agree to a condition that if a tow truck either picks up or drops off a car at the property, that it will not do so in the street. It will only do the pickup and drop off on your physical property that you're leasing.
Okay, ellos lo que están diciendo es que si hay un yeah, he said he's okay with that because he has enough space to do it on the property.
Okay.
Counsel, you agree that that would be a condition?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and the applicant has.
Okay. Anybody else from the board have any other questions? Everybody good? Bob, you good?
Good, Jim.
Anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this project? Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? For or against?
I'll make a motion we approve.
I need a second. I will second that. Colleen Dunn. No. Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Jim McMahon. Yes. All right. Please, I beg you. Please stick with the conditions, please.
We're working on it. I will. I promise we will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and Ken, I'll send you over those conditions first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
With many conditions.
All right, 10-minute break, please.
I got you.
5-minute break. All right?
Michael, how are you?
Yeah, it is, yep. Yeah, they sold it. Yeah.
I know it's gonna
It was like one of my first ones.
Yeah.
I got the DVR on. I know it's gonna give her.
Let me ruin that for you right now.
Thank you.
Brought the heavy hitters out tonight, huh? Oh, good. Good Wi-Fi here?
Blow a gasket over here.
All right, We can do this. We can almost. Hope he's not long-winded like Bryce is. Oh. Can I? Huh?
I just didn't have enough information with that.
Ken has it.
What's that?
The conditions of the last one.
Yeah. No, I have them.
No, he wants them.
No, I want them.
Oh, he wants you to tell him what they are.
They're all the same conditions that were in the other opinion, except that the amount of cars can't be 30 because it's 11, right? And he's agreeing that there won't be any street offloading in addition to that. That's 6 I know of. I think there's a couple more on the record. They'll all be in there, trust me.
Whether it was in here or some other part of the building, there was a big map of the area. Is that still in here somewhere?
I have never seen that map, no.
No?
No.
I had one in my office.
Yeah.
No,
At
it was
Bristol
on the wall.
Township.
Yeah. Showed the canal.
No, I've been doing this for quite a while. Oh, it's in there? Okay.
Next room over?
Yeah. What was I doing here? Looking for the Eagles score.
I would say we have an objector. You know, you can always take a decision under advisement and make the following day.
Okay.
Just so you know, I don't.
Yeah, no. Listen, I was kind of,
Business cards back that
I was kind of sticking to my guns on that one. I don't.
I did, I'm like, let's give it. Wait, he called that guy Armando for anything that we made. That's all, that's a different person.
All right, it's only the first quarter. Let's go.
We only have one more?
Yeah, see, I just love
2 more.
2 more. We can do
One's
this.
should be really quick.
Probably could have done all 11 tonight, but everybody. No. Probably have 11 next month though.
In January.
You won't see me here.
Isn't there a limit, Bob? Is there a limit?
That's why I gave you guys a heads up. I would have split it in two, but
Yeah, well, that's gonna happen next time.
as soon as you started yelling at me,
Well, I lied to her. I
Yeah,
said,
I mean, you can limit it.
yeah.
You think it's gonna take more than 2 hours, 3 hours? That was your firm. God, bless Tom Hecker.
Yeah, right? Still have the card in my
Blessed
car.
memory.
Yeah, he could give a presentation, that guy, that's for sure.
Yes, he could.
He taught you, didn't he teach you?
Tom, yeah. Hopefully some of it stuck. I wasn't smart enough to figure this out at the council meeting.
It's stamped on his forehead. Deny me. All right.
All right, bring him back in. Let's go.
All right.
Ready? Everybody ready? All right, here we go. Madhorum Farms LP, 415 Bristol Road, Bensalem, PA. Please come on up.
Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here on behalf of the applicant Mataram Farms LP. provided the certificate of service to Mr. Fetterman.
Acknowledged.
All right, thank you. As I indicated, I am here with Mr. Patel on behalf of Mataram Farms LP. Mataram Farms LP is the owner of 501 Veterans Highway. The tax parcel is 5-58-123, and the site is approximately 0.31 acres. I think the board is familiar with this property. I know this was the subject of a prior application in January of 2021, where a convenience store and smoke shop was proposed and approved at this venue, but was never subsequently opened. My knowledge of the site before that was this housed the Stadium Bar and Grill for a number of years, and I think it's been vacant for 4 or 5 years. The oddity on this site is it is zoned residential, R2, despite the fact that I think going back into the 80s, it's always been used as a commercial operation or a bar and restaurant. We are here before you this evening to propose opening a Batteries Plus at this location. There will be no external improvements. The building is approximately 2,000 square feet. There's no site work. The substantial work is going to be just done to the interior of the site with fit outs. As you can see with the aerial, there might need to be a little restriping of the parking area, but there is a significant and adequate amount of parking at the site for this use, which has only 4 employees. There are no other variances that are necessary. I know obviously there's a different standard sometimes when we're talking about a use variance, but I think this property speaks for itself with this historic usage, and that this use in particular, Batteries Plus, is a good use at this location. It's consistent with its traditional commercial nature. And what I would like to do is have Mr. Patel sworn in and offer some brief testimony about who he is and the intended use of this property, if that's acceptable.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, here you go.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Patel. Can you please state your name for the record?
Kiran Patel, Kiran.
Okay. And are you in fact the managing partner of Mataram Farms LP?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you are the owner of 501 Veterans Highway, the site that's in front of the board this evening. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you acquire the site?
March of this year, March 22.
All right. And you're aware that the property was previously utilized as a stadium bar and grill, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And that it was proposed to have a convenience store and smoke shop at this location in January of 2021, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just briefly detail to the board what you are proposing this evening?
Okay. So Battery Plus, it's very unique franchise. So I was with the real estate team with the franchise Batteries Plus. They have around 800 stores, and out of 8 or 10 locations, they say this demographics and location is different locations in this county, and they, and then they approve based on the demographics and the location. They said this could be the best suitable location for the Batteries Plus. So instead of having a convenience store or smoke shop, I decided to open the Batteries Plus stores. So batteries is pretty much small electronic gadgets and the watch battery, the electronics and cell phone batteries, Android batteries, and car keys batteries. So something very unique. They also repair iPhone and iPad and all that stuff.
Okay. And they have, as you indicated, other locations locally, often in a storefront, I think, like this site in Fairless Hills. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How many employees would be located here at the largest shift, approximately?
At a time, it's 2 is good enough at a time.
5?
2.
Oh,
at
2,
a time,
okay.
yes.
Okay, 2 at a
good
time.
enough, yeah.
All right. And as you can see with the aerial, we have approximately room for a little more than 20 parking spaces here. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And what's the typical hours of operation for Batteries Plus?
8 to 6.
All right. And I made the representation to the board this evening that there's no external site work. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So you're planning to utilize the building as is currently constituted on the exterior?
Correct.
Okay. And then, do you have a opinion regarding the difficulty of converting the site to a residential use because of the location with the existing impervious and the structure?
Yes, it's not even possible because it's been using as a commercial, so it's gonna be very, very hectic.
All right. Do you have any reason to believe that Batteries Plus would be out of character or a detriment to the surrounding community at this location?
Actually, the community need this kind of business because in the mall stores, there is not even Android for, there is not even repair shop here. So community would greatly appreciate, I think, this kind of operation here.
Okay. I have nothing further for Mr. Patel at this
Do you,
time.
can you just make a proffer as to what zoning class would this business be allowed in?
So this would be traditionally, it's a use D1 retail shop. This is in the R2 district. I think typically you would find this in a standard commercial district in the township.
So if it was a C commercial district,
commercial,
it would
I
be a
think.
permitted use?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that's consistent with the historic uses here, even if it's not of the same specific character.
Just wanted to make sure you weren't going to tell me M3 or M1 or something like
No.
that. Okay.
So the property only has one way in, one way out, right, Mike?
I think you can actually, if we go back to, go ahead, Bob, if we flip back, I think the side street has a second access
Yeah, you
point,
can go
actually.
down the side
So
street.
right off of Westview, you can see in and out
Okay.
there, and then also from Veterans Highway.
Will there be a designated in and out at this property or no? Not that it needs to be, I'm just,
In terms of internal signage directing vehicle traffic? Honestly, we haven't discussed that previously. Is there a preference from the board for this location? I think the traffic generated here is going to be fairly minimal, certainly in contrast to the prior uses at the site.
okay. I was just like more concerned of people coming off Veterans Highway and somebody coming out of the store and trying to get into the store and, holding up traffic. But I guess, I think the way it is fine. All right. I was just curious. Any other questions from the board? No? You done with the presentation?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Bob? Anybody from the audience? Okay. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Martha Marks.
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One down, one to go. Really?
Okay, Pavarini Chic Group LLC, 400 West Franklin Street.
Malin's affidavit of service is acknowledged.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mike McGinnis here on behalf of Paverny Shake Group LLC. I have with me Greg Serino on behalf of the entity. I also have CJ Bach from Bowler. Bowler is the site engineer on this project. There is, I think, two small housekeeping items at the outset that I think are worth clarity on before we proceed substantively. And that is, upon reviewing the advertisement, I know that the township had advertised two variances pertaining to retail. One is a retail parking variance and one is a retail loading space variance. Neither of those variances we are seeking this evening. At one point in time, we're withdrawing them, Mr. Fetterman, just to be clear. At one point in time, through discussions internally with the township, there was some thought as to whether we could put a small retail piece at the site, and that became infeasible with the site design. So those variances are not being sought, as you can see with the plan before you this evening, and as we will get into tonight, this is just a indoor commercial storage location. So to the extent it needs to be stated, we are withdrawing the two variances relating to the retail parking and the retail loading space. The subject property for your consideration with this application is 6801 Bristol Pike. It's comprised of two separate parcels. One is 5-74-92, and the second is 5-74-93, and together they are approximately 2.38 acres. This is an odd parcel, and not just because of its layout and orientation. It's odd because of the fact that it's comprised of two separate parcels, and those two zoning districts are different on this site. So the main parcel where the bulk of the building is situated, and we'll point this out as part of CJ's testimony, is in the commercial zoning district, and the smaller piece, what I'm going to say to the right side of the site plan in front of you this evening, is zoned M1, which creates a lot of difficulties with this site from a layout standpoint. And part of the thought process, if we were fortunate enough to receive the variances this evening and move forward with land development, would be to clean the site up, not just physically, and we'll get into that too, but from a legal and zoning standpoint. So after we move forward past the zoning hearing board and proceed to land development, as part of the application, we will be seeking to consolidate the two lots, which then creates another issue because one is commercial and one's zoned M1. Well, self-storage or mini warehouses, as they're phrased in Bristol, are permitted in the M1 district. They're not permitted in the commercial zoning district. However, the commercial zoning district substantially lessens the number of variances that are necessary from a dimensional standpoint.
While you're on that, just quickly, you're withdrawing variance requests 3 and 6.
We're withdrawing 205, 120A19.
Right, that's number 3.
And 205, 22H.
Right, that's number 6.
That's
Okay.
correct, thank
All right,
you.
Thank you.
And I don't mean to belabor this point, but I do think it goes into part of the hardship as well here with the strange lot orientation. So part of our land development would be a request, and we've consulted with the township about this, to unify the zoning here because we think it's preferable moving forward at this site to have one parcel and one zoning district. So I wanted to be clear about that at the outset. What we really have is an application where the primary bulk of the variances pertain to the fact that Bristol's zoning ordinance doesn't envision, in my opinion, indoor storage facilities, at least not the way that they're being built these days. They are, for example, there's a 12-foot height cap, and there's a 6,000 square foot footprint maximum, because I think when the ordinance was passed, what you were seeing for storage was the exterior Orange Bay self-storage facilities and not these buildings, which look more like office complexes. So I would submit it's impossible essentially to develop an indoor climate-controlled storage facility in compliance with Bristol's ordinances. We are proposing a 3-story indoor climate-controlled self-storage facility, and the building footprint would be a little over 36,200 square feet. And Mr. McTagg, if you can flip one of the, yes, pictures an aerial. For anyone who's not familiar with this site, that is an aerial of the location right now. So this is home to Keith's Automotive, and it is problematic, I think, would be the diplomatic phrase that I would use in terms of its layout, in terms of the location of the cars, the trailers, cars and trailers over property lines. I will make the representation that, you know, we had dialogue with some, I don't want to speak on behalf of all the neighbors, but there were concerns that were given to us regarding homelessness and drug usage in the area on this site. And we are quite confident, and you will see with the renderings and the operation that PSG has, that we're going to replace this use with a use that is significantly higher in quality and will be an improvement for the area, not just this parcel. PSG has significant history building storage facilities like the one that's in front of you this evening. We'll detail that momentarily through Greg's testimony. But I can say down the street, we did a project a year ago in Middletown, the location of the former Aldi on Woodburn Road. It's going to be a very, very high-class quality structure, and this structure will be the same if it's approved this evening. Rather than go through a list, like I said, the variances, we'll detail them both with Greg and with CJ from Bowler, but I would again submit that you can't make reasonable use of this site with its zoning disposition, with the split lot, and certainly not to build a storage facility because of the way the ordinance lays out. So what I would like to do is offer Mr. Serino to testify, give you a bit more background about who he is, what PSG does, the quality of the product we're looking to deliver here, and then have Mr. Bach from Bowler go through the site plan. Greg?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
State your name and spell it, please.
Greg, G-R-E-G-G, and then Serino, C-E-R-I-N-O.
I-N-O?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Serino. Can you state where you are currently employed?
I'm employed with Paverny Sheet Group. We are based out of Baltimore, Maryland.
All right. And what is your role with Paverny?
I work on the development and acquisition side of the company.
All right. And Paverny is the equitable owner of 6801 Bristol Pike. Is that true?
Yes, we are the contract purchaser.
Okay. Can you give the board a little bit of background about who PSG is and what they do?
Yes. Paverny Sheet Group started in 2012. We have developed numerous multifamily and self-storage developments up and down the East Coast. To date, we've developed 16 self-storages, all ground-up development, all climate-control Class A self-storage. These facilities are managed by either Extra Space or Public Storage for the majority. They are both national management companies for self-storage. They uphold the highest standards in both cleanliness and security, having numerous security protocols throughout each one of our developments.
All right. And what attracted PSG to this site in particular?
Bristol Township has a very great number of density, which is very appealing to us in addition to the accessibility and major roadways. We believe that this site in particular was a great opportunity for redevelopment in order to improve the streetscape of Bristol Pike and improve the built environment surrounding it.
All right. And before we get started, actually, in terms of further substantive discussion, can you affirm the representation I made that PSG, through the land development process, would be willing to, and in fact plans on consolidating the lots and to unify the zoning districts on these sites?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And the present use, as you can see with the aerial that was in front of the board, is for Keith's Automotive. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. And there are a number of vehicles and trailers outside at the site presently?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. And goes without saying, but just to be clear and put in the record, the existing building would be demolished as part of this application, and all of the vehicles and trailers would be removed from this site. Is that right?
Yes, we are going to do a full redevelopment of the property. There will be no outside car storage on site.
All right. Can you, just broadly speaking, propose to the board what we're doing here and why you're confident we'll be successful at this location?
Yes, we are trying to consolidate the zoning for this property in order to develop a Class A multi-story self-storage facility. This area is in need of self-storage. Most of the storage facilities in this location are very leased up. Most of the smaller units are not even available, forcing people to get either larger units than they're needed.
All right. And there's going to be fencing along the exterior of this site. Is that true, too?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McTay, can you flip to, I would say, the next rendering? I think it's, yes, that slide. So between this and the second rendering that was in front of the board, can you just briefly cover the aesthetic and also some of the flexibility with the design with the board, if you could?
Yes. For this particular project, the township did not want the normal metal gray green facade that self-storages can have, or the bright oranges. So we worked with them to find a design that was more optimal to what they were looking for the township. In this instance itself, they chose for masonry outside. We absolutely worked with them, and we're fine with that moving forward. For other projects, areas don't like the bright orange, so we try to dull that down as much as possible, if not eliminate it.
So would it be fair to state, obviously, there's some finality with the exterior footprint and site work, but would work with the township architecturally to come up with a exterior design that the township desires to fit in with the community?
Yes, absolutely. We've included murals in other projects when community had called for it.
Okay. Can you just cover with the board the number of employees and I guess broadly speaking, how this operates generally in terms of access, hours of operation, just substantive information about the day-to-day operation of the site?
There would be 3 to 4 full-time employees. These employees at a peak occupancy would have 2 on site. The facility would have gates for people to enter. Each tenant would have their own code to enter the gated area and park their car. After they exit their car, they would then go up to the doors, which also require a key code to enter the site. Once the key code is entered, the doors open, they can access the elevator, which again requires another key code. These facilities are fully covered in cameras and have numerous security checks, top-of-the-line security all throughout the site.
All right. And there's going to be, it will be monitored so that no individual, for example, will be leasing or renting a unit to live out of, for example, correct? And
Yes, that's strictly prohibited in their leases.
okay. The hours of operation,
Between 9 and 6 p.m., people that have a storage on site can access their locker 24/7 through the key codes.
all right. We have 13 spaces, I believe, proposed with respect to parking. Can you just explain why you believe that's sufficient based upon your historical operations of other self-storage facilities?
Yes, we've done numerous parking studies on all of our sites. We've never found that more than 5 to 6 cars are on a site at one time, even during peak hours from 9 to noon on a Saturday. 12 to 13 spaces is more than enough, but we want to go on the safe side and not push it.
Okay. And as part of the land development process, you're aware of the fact that there would have to be a stormwater component of this to improve the stormwater situation as it currently exists on the site. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And PSG will work with the township and the township consultants to make sure that the current situation with respect to stormwater runoff would be improved with this development. Is that right?
That is right.
All right. Knowing what you know of the surrounding area, is there any reason that you believe that this use at this location would have a negative impact on any of those properties?
No, not at all. If anything, it would be an improvement to the area.
All right, and you already touched on it briefly, but from a security standpoint, again, because of some of the concerns that some of the neighbors had, can you represent to the board that you will work with the neighborhood, if necessary, to basically make sure the site is clean and you're policing any issues that have been going on historically at this location?
Yes. In addition to our company, our national management firms will constantly watch the cameras. Any issues that arise, they will notify us, and we will take actions to make sure those issues are addressed and do not proceed.
Okay, and this is going to be a multi-million-dollar investment on your company's behalf with this site, with the improvements, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. I have nothing further for Mr. Serino. If the board would like, I might suggest to have Mr. Bach testify from a site standpoint and then open it up, but certainly if we'd like to inquire as to Mr. Serino right now, I'd be happy to do that.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Serino? Okay.
I just want to make sure the point is clear for the board, and that is currently this property is bifurcated in its zoning. It's C commercial and it's M1.
That's right.
And M1 allows this use.
Yes.
But you're preferring to have the whole thing rezoned as C commercial as opposed to M1, where the use would be allowed because there would be more variance requests if you went M1.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to
Yes.
make sure that's clear for the record.
Yeah, so We've sort of potted this in the generic 205-36A pot is the variance relating to mini warehouses. That's going to be unavoidable no matter what, however this is zoned. I'm not talking about the use. The use would be permitted, but the dimensional components with the mini warehouse designation attached regardless of the zoning district. But this application, when you get past that, the other dimensional variances are very minimal, which we'll cover. If we switch to M1, the mini warehouse use is permitted, but then we have a litany of variances that are necessary because of the dimensional layout. Now, candidly, we have absolutely no preference. Whether it's M1 or commercial makes no difference to us. We're just trying to unify the zoning district, and we thought from an efficiency standpoint, having 7 variances with commercial would be simpler than 15 variances, the number was from M1. But at the end of the day, if the board's preference is zone at M1 and come back to us, next month with a list of what the M1 would look like, we'd be willing to do that. But like any developer and any development application, obviously time is somewhat of the essence, and we would prefer to move forward. But I just, as always, want to lay all the cards on the table and be as candid as possible.
And you're seeking 4 variances, right? Not 7,
Well, so
unless some are embedded.
the 205-36A is the section which relates to the mini warehouse use. So you have the general variance to allow that use classification, but inside of 205-36A, there is the use pertaining to, which we'll get into in a second, the height is capped at 12 feet, and the building is limited to 6,000 square feet. So when I say 7, I'm adding the additional numbers as to that subsection.
That makes sense.
That's all.
Yeah, we don't have no further questions.
Okay.
Didn't we just approve one of these on Haynes Road or Edgley Road? Or was that a mini warehouse?
There's 5 on Haynes Road.
Yeah.
Mini warehouse outdoors. It was like mini
Right.
warehouse, no indoor.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Good evening, CJ. Can you please state your name for the record?
Sure. CJ Bach with Ballware Engineering.
All right. And what licenses do you hold?
I have a professional engineer's license in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Mike, he's qualified. He's been
Understood.
before the board before, so.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You have a CV, you can hand it out to me, and I'll put it in the record. It's
I do
in
not.
there. All right, whatever.
Okay.
He's been here a number of times.
Yep, understood. Mr. Bach, you're familiar with the subject property and the surrounding parcels, is that true?
I am.
All right. Can you give the board a brief overview of the current layout of the site?
Sure. Would you go to the second slide, please? So the existing conditions of the
Yes.
site. As illustrated in this aerial, you can see an approximate 10,000 square foot metal building occupies a automobile service facility here on this 2.3 acre parcel. The property is generally paved corner to corner with a lot of parking, vehicle storage, and parking for the automobile service center. The site's generally devoid of landscaping, I'd say, and has a lot of what I will call offensive lighting related to what appears to be some car sales that have occurred there, or some car sales. So it's like car sales lights. They're really bright, super spotlight, pointing into the site.
And this property, we're saying property, but it's 2 parcels, correct?
Correct. They're the.
Can you highlight just briefly where approximately the split is between the parcels for the board?
Sure. I believe it's back in here.
Yeah.
So our right side here is the M1 and the left side is the commercial.
Okay.
So the property has generally fronts Bristol Pike, but this is right here at the intersection of Airport, and then there's Sylvie Avenue, if I'm saying that correct. So the property clearly has multiple frontages, very odd shaped, just a peculiar kind of property relative to, the frontages.
All right. And then if, Mr. Tate, you can flip back to the color site plan, yep. Can you just briefly cover for the board what we're proposing in the layout.
Sure, as it's been explained, it's a three-story, 36,000 square foot approximate footprint, self-storage, Class A, climate-controlled self-storage. The site proposes 13 parking spaces and several different loading areas, including one in the back. And there's two actual little loading areas here in the front. The site, as it's shown here, actually only proposes 54% impervious, so a significant increase in our green space and landscaping. Also, as it was noted before, we would be proposing a full code-compliant stormwater system to deal with rates and volumes per the ordinance and state requirements. The site also, as noted before, no outdoor storage is proposed. Modern landscaping, modern lighting, LED, where we will be code compliant generally, save for one of our variances where we already know through a lot of experience here in Bristol, we typically need just some minor relief to meet ANSI safety standards while also doing our best to limit light trespass. So one of our variances was related to a small relief, request of relief. As I've noted, though, it's more of an existing nonconformity, what's going on with that lighting. So I think anything we're doing here is going to be much better in terms of trespass, dark sky compliant, and then also, of course, we'll have to demonstrate that it meets all the ANSI standards for safety, maneuvering around driveways, entranceways, parking. So there's some standards there that just are not compatible with the Bristol Township standards.
How about signage?
As of present, I don't know that the plan proposes any detached signing. I would have to defer to the owner on what their intention is for some signage.
Okay.
We've yet to address any of that.
ANSI, is that an acronym?
ANSI, yes. Sorry.
You're not requesting any relief relative to signage,
That's
though?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And the lighting, CJ, that you just discussed, in addition to thinking it's probably going to be an improvement on the existing conditions on the site,
Sure.
primarily relates to safety standards as well here. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. And we're talking about light trespass, and it's, in and around the driveways, and then the ANSI standards for that, the minimum lighting there at the driveway, plus the, parking, everything's very close to this, front line. So you end up with some higher values. I do not have a full lighting design yet, but just through our experience here working in Bristol, we know that we're going to need some relief there to meet the ANSI standards.
And that lighting plan will be part of our land development
Correct.
application. We'll work with the township consultants to minimize any light trespass as part of this.
Yes. Again, I believe the request on this is fairly de minimis and probably could be argued existing nonconformity relative to what lighting is out there.
Okay. Can you, because there was some back and forth, can you just briefly cover what I would consider the oddity regarding the mini warehouse with the height cap and the square
Sure.
footage maximum as
Sure.
well?
I think when we look at the ordinance and the standards in there for mini warehouse, I think we're thinking the detached, single-story, 13 buildings of 6,000 square feet apiece. It's a different type of market. Unfortunately, when we look at the ordinance, mini warehouse still seems the most appropriate for what we're doing, but the modern product now is much different. It's not like a garage you're renting. It could be as small as a closet. So people just need all different sizes and different shaped products, plus the climate control aspects of it. It's just one of the features that all the modern self-storage guys want to offer. So it just doesn't work with those standards in the ordinance, but again, it seems to be the closest applicable use.
All right. We have a loading variance related to loading spaces, but it's not actually the quantity of the loading spaces, correct? It's the
no.
location. Can you just explain that for clarity to the board?
Sure. The ordinance requires that the loading spaces not be in the front of the building, and obviously for this use, it makes the most sense to have loading spaces wherever we can, notwithstanding the fact that the property has multiple frontages that you would probably be hard-pressed to not need this relief. But specifically, we're showing, several loading areas here on this side of the building facing Sylvia, and that would require relief.
And in fact, because this is basically a triple frontage lot, it's almost impossible to have a loading space that isn't fronting on some street. Is that correct?
Correct.
All
Yes.
right. We also have, you talked about pre-existing nonconformities with respect to the light pollution, but one of our variances relates to the buffer yard. This is also something that we're making better.
Sure.
But just for candidness, can you cover for the board what
sure
we're
can.
showing with the 30-foot residential buffer?
Yeah, relative to the property line here on this side, I believe it is, we're required a 30-foot buffer, but the buffer width in the ordinance is required to be adjusted for additional building height. Our being 3-story, our buffer would consequently technically be required at 50 feet. We're providing the 30 feet, but again, anything we provide is better than what is being provided today in terms of an existing nonconformity. So we feel like we're substantially improving it, but if we were to try to achieve the 50, it really squeezes the lot into a condition where it's not very marketable. We can't get the yield.
All right. And part of the land development will have landscaping as well.
The buffer, of course, will be, there's requirements for landscaping it. We do show a fence right now, you know, to demonstrate that we intend to secure the site. But yeah, that'll be addressed to be compliant in the ordinance with the land development process.
Okay. And then the other item, which is not related to variance, but in terms of traffic generation, with this being a commercial site, zone commercial, at least in part, this should have a markedly smaller traffic impact than really any other commercial use that could come into a 2.3 acre property. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, yes, it is. As the client already noted, they observe a peak midday Saturday, which, you know, definitely is off-peak from just about everything else in conventional traffic engineering. When we start talking about, 4 to 6, peak hour, midday Saturday is a pretty light one. And they don't see just a lot of people at once. It's they kind of sporadically come and go.
All right. Do you have an opinion in light of the site layout and what you've testified to this evening as to whether these are the minimum variances necessary on this particular site for this project?
Yes, as you've elaborated also earlier, yes.
All right. And any reason why you think this would negatively impact the surrounding residences or businesses at this location?
No, I feel like this is a good improvement for this area.
All right. I have nothing further at this time for Mr. Bach. I would just conclude again with the statement that really we do not have, in my opinion, many variances related to this use. I think this is a market improvement from what's there. It's zone commercial. It'll have less traffic impact. It'll clean the site up. We think this is a good use for this location. And I would note, this is not in the peak commercial corridor that Bristol's trying to redevelop. So a storage use at this location, I think, would be consistent with township desires. So thank you for your consideration.
So no storing of boats, trailers, cars?
No outdoor storage. We have 13 spaces. Yeah, no. Okay. All the more reason to not have maybe so many spaces is to preclude the temptation to try to do that. So with just kind of the operational minimum spaces they're comfortable with, I think that helps ensure that there's no intention to do that.
And I've stated before in other places, and obviously I'm a bit biased with this statement, but questions come up, well, how do we eliminate some of the exterior outdoor storage uses, places that have become a nuisance? And in my opinion, the answer to that is you develop high-end, grade A, indoor commercial storage facilities that have a similar market, and then you can go through and redevelop and make better use of those other sites that have become issues in different locations in Lower Bucks.
Anybody on board have any questions for Mr. Bach? No? Is that it?
That is it, thank you.
Bob, anything to add? Okay. Anybody from the audience? Come on up, man.
Thank you. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name and spell it, please?
Yes, Joan, Joan. Last name is Termina, Termyna. So I have 6811 Sylvia Avenue.
6811?
Yes, right across the street. I haven't talked to anybody about anything with this property, so I don't know where they got the feedback from the neighbors. So I have a couple questions. So normally you would have a 12-foot high facility. So if you want 3 stories, you're estimating 36 to 40 feet high? Correct. Okay.
Hold on, we gotta get on microphone. Somebody, anybody? Maybe you can talk in that microphone, you can, one or the other.
Okay.
Somebody, we gotta talk in the mic.
I'm fine.
Let me add one comment. The commercial zoning district cap is 50 feet, which we comply with. So someone could come in and build a 50-foot building by right here without needing zoning relief. The 12-foot cap relates to, again, the statement that storage facilities historically were exterior, one lot, one story.
I'm very familiar with them. So, I see you have entrances there. So I'm assuming the one entrance to your facility with a gate would be coming in off of Route 13 and going out the back end of Sylvia Avenue? Is that your two gate accesses? So they would be coming out.
Let him answer the question.
Okay.
Yes, those are our proposed access points.
Can you guys come up here, 'cause my
Sure.
family's talking?
Yes, sure.
Sorry.
So, your back end gate access would be directly coming out, and you're saying you're open 24 hours a day, where some facilities are only open till 10 o'clock at night. They would be coming out all hours of the night and shining into my house and coming around the corner. And you realize the limited span of that. Right now, I have a rental unit, 3 rental units, and my tenants park in the street. And we have them park on one side of the street because we have a fire hydrant, a mailbox, and Keith has to come out of the garage with his truck. So you have people coming in to use the site. What is the average size of your units in the facility?
The average size of the units in the facility is 84 square feet. They can go from 5 by 5s, which is 25 square feet, to 10 by 10s, upwards to 10 by 20s.
Do you have 20 by 20?
No.
15 by 20?
There may be some 15 by 10s. I don't believe there's any 15 by 20s. It's a large facility.
Okay, so you have 13 parking spots. So can you show me where the parking spots are on that? There's some there and some there. So the off-color green in the center is where you want the building.
This is the building, yes.
And where is the office going to be, on the corner?
The office is this little square.
Okay. So, as resident, I have another resident here on that street. Can you see how we would not want the back entrance to be right on our street?
Can you go to the second slide? The existing addition of property, everybody accesses Sylvia along pretty much the entire frontage back there. I don't know why that would be so different than what's proposed.
Who uses that? How many people do you think come in and out of Keith's garage in a day?
I don't know. I see a lot of cars and a lot of, I don't know.
I would say maybe 15 people. My husband's retired. He could tell you more because he's out there all the time.
We don't anticipate a demand of that high probably a day.
How many storage units did you tell me you're going to have?
How many storage units, or the average size?
No. How many storage units?
I believe we're in the 900 range.
900 storage units, and you don't think you're going to have more than 15 or 20 people a day?
No.
I do not agree with you.
It typically takes around...
All right, easy now.
It typically takes around 2.5 years for storage facility to lease up to 85% occupancy. It takes 2.5 years to lease up 900 units.
I would agree with you, and I agree that climate-controlled units are very popular, but 900 units is a lot of units. So even if you had 10% of the people coming in a day, how many people is that?
That would be an extremely high number for one day of storage.
I'm just saying. Okay, so what is your average?
The average lease up in a good month is 2.5%, and that's being optimistic.
So you're saying you only get 2.5% of your facility filled in a month?
Yes, that is accurate.
You're building this because there is an extreme demand for climate-controlled units, am I right?
There is not an extreme demand, there is a demand, yes.
If you go to a climate-controlled unit, I bet you could call 5 in the area And there probably may not be anything available in a climate-controlled unit, or one, or two. So it is an extreme demand to have a climate-controlled unit. You wouldn't be building if it wasn't.
It is in demand. Climate control is scarce in this area, but 2.5% is still the average monthly occupancy ramp up.
Okay, so let's go back to the drawing. So what is going to be in that green area facing Sylvie?
I believe that area may end up being some stormwater. There'll be landscaping. I mean, the green areas will be predominantly landscaping, but if I can do some best management practice, stormwater infiltration, small rain gardens, those types of features. I've not done a design yet, but we intend for that to be green space.
Okay, so my house is the one out the gate. So when I look out my front window, or if I wanted to sit on my front porch, I'm
This
looking
one?
at a gate. No, that one.
This one?
No, the
Sorry.
one out the gate.
Well, I have a gate here. What gate are you talking about?
Back,
This one here?
no,
You talking about this property back here?
no, sir.
Go ahead.
You go out your back gate,
Here, you can even point, I don't care. Here, it's the middle button right there. Go ahead.
right there.
Okay,
You
gotcha.
got your back gate.
Yep.
That is my house. So my view is going to be your gate and a 36-foot building.
Yes, ma'am.
There's going to be no trees, there's not going to be anything in front of that.
We'll have landscaping along the frontage in here and then along this side here.
Can you restate that, please?
We will have landscaping in in all the green spaces here along these frontages.
Yes, yes.
So they'll,
Okay.
You gotta stay on the microphone, ma'am.
Can I point?
you
in
can
the
have
back
this,
of the
you can have it,
microphone?
here,
You can't talk when you're away from the
middle button.
microphone.
I was going to point.
Get on your microphone.
There. So you come out.
Can you speak in the
th-
microphone, please?
Excuse me. There is the house, there is the gate, correct? You're going to come out the gate and you're going to go down this road.
That is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to look at a gate and a potentially 40,
Yes.
50-foot building.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what's proposed.
It's going to look like a 40-foot tall office with landscaping instead of that would be, I think this is a significantly preferable aesthetic.
One could agree, but it may not look as well as it could. But the traffic use, he's not open on the weekends, he's not open at nights. We don't hear much going on over there at all.
You will hear nothing because it will be enclosed here, and it is documented, not just as part of this application, but there are traffic study after traffic study that indoor self-storage has the least traffic-generated impact of any commercial use. That is not me stating that, it is a proven fact.
Okay. We talked about the gates. You said the gates would be on a lock, correct?
Yes,
The doors to the interior storage unit would be on a lock.
correct.
And the elevators would be on the same customer's key code lock.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then what do you use, cylinder locks inside?
They can purchase a cylinder lock or a different type of lock variety that is part of the lease.
All right, I still think 900 units is a lot of units, and I think it's going to generate more traffic. Of course, we would like to see something go in there. When the board said masonry facade, I've seen them with brick facades. It looks more like an office building. And, the trees, and then you have that gate. I don't know how big the gate's going to be, but
Brick like this, like a brick facade?
yes, yes. But, and then you're talking the space is right in front of there. And then you're talking where the lights are, you have to have a gate, I guess it's a metal wrought iron gate, because you have to get the gate around the whole facility and the gate that lifts up to get inside the facility.
Right.
So how high is the fence going to be?
It's about an 8-foot high fence. It's not meant to be penetrated or jumped over or leaped over by any people.
Yeah, it's a pretty high fence. But it's gonna have the most impact on me, because when you drive out the back of there, and their turn radius on that street is not great. It's not great at all. You see the curve and the circumference there?
I do. We did do several simulations to make sure we can get all the emergency vehicles and whatever, the anticipated delivery, the trucks for people who move and all. We've checked all that geometry and
Even with
it
the
works.
cars in the street?
Yes.
And what I can say is, after this meeting, if we are fortunate enough to get approval tonight, I will give you my card. We will, no, I mean this
understand that.
non-sarcastically. We can include anyone as much as possible in terms of, we're gonna have to go through land development, we're gonna have to design stormwater facilities, we're gonna have to plant buffer plantings, we're gonna have to work through our architectural design on the aesthetic of the exterior of the building. We are more than happy, to the extent it's feasible, to keep you involved in the process and work with you in the township. And that's a representation I can make confidently this evening.
Can I ask this question? When you say stormwater management, what exactly are you speaking of?
For the stormwater management, right now the site is just all pavement. So when it rains, the water just runs right off of it. We're gonna actually take all that rainwater and we're gonna run it through infiltration, small infiltration basins, like little depressions. And we'll mitigate and hold all that water, release it at a slower rate, and we'll infiltrate a lot of volume. So we remove volume from the stormwater system overall because we hold it back. And we also reduce the peak rates that cause flooding downstream because we've held it back and let it out at a controlled rate.
So right now, because if you look at the aerial, right now it's all impervious. So there is nowhere for the stormwater to go when it rains. It just goes everywhere. When you add the amount of green space that we're adding, in addition to the normal stormwater design that CJ's talking about, the green space that gets added allows the stormwater to actually penetrate into the ground at a much higher rate. So even if we never put in a stormwater management facility and just converted a portion of the impervious to pervious green space, your properties and the other properties in the area would receive significantly less stormwater runoff with our site than what's there presently. And that's before we get into the stormwater management design. So there will be a documented market improvement in stormwater runoff from this site post-land development.
I have no problem. I don't get water in my basement. I have no water. There's a giant retention basin next to my house.
Well, if anybody is from this site, it will be improved with this development.
I still think the height of the building is extremely high. And, I think it's, I just think that the height of the building is extremely high.
Okay, thank you.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I did.
Can you state your name and spell it, please?
Steve Termina, Termyna. Want my address? 6811 Sylvie Avenue, right across the street from there, Levittown. Okay. I don't know how much research you guys have done here, but you're not really in the ballpark, and I'm not happy with what you want to do. Seeing that I have to look at whatever you're going to do for as long as I live there. Yeah, that property needs to be cleaned up. There's no question about it. I agree with you there. But 3 stories, if you go down north or up north on 13, there is not a 3-story building all the way down to Tullytown. They don't exist. Now, I don't know if you would build that across the street from your house, but I don't want to look at a 3-story across the street from my house. And right now, the way that property is pitched, as my wife indicated, there is a basin right next to my house, which was excavated by the turnpike many, many years ago. So most of his water and everything that runs down the street goes in that basin. Now, I don't know where you guys intend to put this water if you're going to change excavation. Where were you thinking on putting that?
That's going to be in the numerous greenscapes around the property. In the numerous greenscapes around the property, as seen.
How much distance is there from the existing curb to the edge of your green space that hits the parking lot?
Are you referring to the back of the site along Sylvia Ave where that large?
Who's got that?
It's right there.
No, the pointer light. No, this thing here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's a limited, how much space is this right in here? Is that where you're gonna put the basin, your basin?
There, I haven't done a design, so I don't know yet, but I would look at these areas here, yeah, I would look to put a basin probably in this corner. I may try to do something in here. This region here, from this curb to this frontage, is 30 feet right now on this plan. So you can imagine something from here to here might be almost 100 feet through here.
And that's enough to do what you guys wanna do?
Well, yes, I believe so.
And you guys are aware that that so-called street in back of the building doesn't exist, right?
Right now, it is just a paper street, as we understand,
Exactly,
and we would have to improve it to the standards for the roads. We're talking about curb and paving a cartway. And ideally, we're proposing this access here to the back for, this is actually just some additional loading for customers. There's actually an extra door back here. They can do some loading.
I don't know if you guys have been down there at any time during the day, but Sylvia Avenue is tight.
Well, that's why what will be required when we get into the land development to look at this road and make sure that it meets the standards for minimum cartway width. You know, there'll need to be curbing, there'd likely need to be sidewalk along all this. We'll have to improve it.
The street.
Yeah.
But then the other issue is, you, as my wife was asking you, you have 900 and some.
But some of them are the size of, like I said, a closet.
That
Very
doesn't
small.
matter. The thing is that you're gonna if you're open, if they have access 24 hours a day, we're looking at traffic 24 hours a day, in and out, 7 days a week, right? Is that correct?
That is correct. People can visit their storage anytime.
I
But
got
as
a
we
problem with
said,
that.
this is
You
probably
wouldn't do that in front of your house.
Sorry, can you let him finish, please?
This is probably the least intensive commercial use out there. A tobacco store, a 7-Eleven, a gas station, a car dealership, all generate more traffic than a storage facility. On average, an individual visits their storage once every 2 months, and that's high. Realistically, people put their things in storage and don't see it for 3 months, 4 months. It's an extension of their home where they didn't have a crawl space to put things in. They're just trying to clear out their house. And we offer them a Class A climate control space to put it in that's safe and secured. They're not coming in every single day to swap things in and out. No one uses a self-storage facility like that.
That may be, but if you have 900 people, if they were rented out individually, you could have umpteen people coming in and out 7 days a week, right? 24 hours a day.
There's always that likelihood.
Exactly. That, everything from that property west is residential. It's not commercial, it's residential. So now we have all this traffic, and you're gonna have people coming in and out the front. That's a 50-mile-an-hour road in front. This is not a good thing. Now, if you knocked it down and reduced the amount of units that you have, which I'm sure would reduce the traffic, maybe then, we'd have something that we can agree on. But what you're throwing out there right now, nah.
We can't reduce the height because of the 3 frontage of the site. We have setbacks that are increased in distance because it's a 3 frontage property. So in order for us to go to 2 stories and try to expand our footprint, we'd be then running into a whole other area of going into the buffer areas. We've also talked to one of the neighbors on that front area that's residential, and she was happy about this and just wanted to know about security in order to get homeless people off the back of her property, which a gated facility will eliminate because it will be well lit with motion lights.
Aren't you asking, though, for a variance so that you can go higher?
No, we are not.
The zoning, though,
So this is a commercial property, as we discussed, so
Right.
any use is gonna be commercial or manufacturing, because there's the M1 use on the side of the property in nature, that is what it is. But the commercial zoning cap in terms of height is 50 feet. So someone could build a commercial use at this site
So why
up to
can't-
49 feet. The only reason that we mention the height here is because the mini warehouse in Bristol's code says the units have to be 12 feet because they're envisioning the outdoor exterior self-storage use. So we don't need a height variance from the commercial zoning district. We are compliant with that. But we're saying that the actual size of the storage units in the aggregate are going to obviously exceed 12 feet in height with this use, but we are compliant with the zoning district's height cap. So someone could come in and build a 50-foot commercial high building and not need zoning relief for that.
For part of it, but for the other part, you would, right?
I don't know. The whole site is 50 feet in terms of height. I think M1 is actually 80 feet. So someone could build an 80-foot building on the corner there by right. That's the zoning ordinance, and we are compliant with the height cap.
I see. Okay.
Bob, they can, play devil's advocate here. With this, being what it is, they could put, like council said, they could put a warehouse there, which would increase truck traffic and all that.
By right, with the two parcels, they could build a building that's 50 feet in the air, and then with the M2, it could be 80 feet in the air.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes. April, April, Whitley, Whitley. 6809 Sylvia Avenue. I didn't talk to any of you. That's the other house on the street. They didn't talk to any of you. I don't know who you're talking to. Which neighbors are you talking to? Because we're the neighbors. I'm the one in the middle. Uh-huh. I go all the way almost to the canal. There's woods behind me. There's a pond just the other side of Steve. And I get the morning sun. I don't want to not get the morning sun. If you put a 50-foot building in front of my house, I'm not going to get that anymore. Are they allowed to do that? Can they take my morning sun?
That's a correction, ma'am. It's not going to be a 50-foot building. What they're projecting is 36 foot.
He said they can go to 50.
They can,
49.
but not going to 50.
Even so, at 36 is a lot more than what we have now. Also, this entrance off of Airport, that's a terrible place to put that. Trust me. I've gone past Sylvie because the car's behind me and waited till it was time to slow down and turn around and come back to my street. Cars zoom down 13. You're really better off coming down, getting off 13, not off of Airport there. That light pole on that island got hit more than once. One time it took all the poles across the street from 13. It's like a domino effect. We didn't have power for over a week. Remember that one? And that'll happen more. Seriously, that's not a good intersection there to do that. You'd have to have them come into 13 so they have a buffer to slow down. The cars can see them turning right and not just assuming they're going down Airport. That's bad, and that's a paper road. It's not there. You're right, it needs to be improved, it needs to be cleaned up, but I don't think a warehouse that size and height, I've seen the one where you're doing it on Woodburn. It's very nice there. It used to be, the Speedway.
at one time. There's no houses there. When we moved in, it was a nice little community right there. Not behind a warehouse.
So, ma'am, what was there before Keith's was there?
Before Keith's, it was T&M Collision. It was Team Toyota. They worked from like 7 to 3. They cleaned the yard off every afternoon. They were closed weekends. It was nothing, just a parking lot. That's all I ever saw, because I worked during the day. Keith's is a little bit busier with his tow truck, but he doesn't come out onto Sylvie. He goes out the other way onto Airport, or actually onto 13. There's no entrance to Airport right there. That doesn't currently exist. And that's a really bad spot, trust me. He has the entrance off of 13.
So,
Mike,
go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems to me that, their concerns are legitimate, but they live across the street from a commercially zoned property. There's nothing they can really do about that. But isn't some of these topics better addressed at land development? So that this is not your final place to come. We're asked to grant variances. We don't get into the full development of the property because that's not our mission. It's not what we're supposed to do. So if you go to the land development meeting or take his card and take him up, maybe they will move an entrance, or maybe they will take one of your suggestions because they want to have a successful project.
To Mr. Fetterman's comment, and obviously the three of you don't know me, and I understand that, but I will state, even if you are dead set against this, I will be happy to, and you can remain dead set against it the entire process, and that will not change the fact that I will be happy to sit down with you, to speak with you, and to include you in that process. It doesn't mean that we're gonna be able to incorporate everything that you want at the site. I'm not stating that. But things like buffering and stormwater and some stuff with access points, that all gets vetted as you go through the land development process, and if we don't do it correctly, we don't get approved by the township. And we will make that effort to include you. Now, we sent the notices out. We had a couple property owners that reached out to us that we spoke to about this, and we're more than happy. You can come to the firm, we can meet, we can go over anything you want. So, again, I'm not gonna stay here and say we can resolve every issue that you have, but I will say that we will include you in a dialogue if you would like. And that is a commitment I will make.
Yeah, listen, somebody's gonna put something there. I mean, regardless, it's gonna happen. So somebody, like, they was stated earlier, they might put something there that they don't even need to come in front of us for. So, but like.
Theoretically, if they don't need a variance, they just can get a building permit. Now, it depends on the size of the project. They may still have to go through land development, but.
I thought they needed 5 variances or 8 variances, depending on whether they go commercial or whether they go manufacturing, because we're in an M2 zone. I get that.
Yeah, I understand.
I know I'm in a mixed zone.
I'm just trying to explain to you that theoretically, someone could put up a 50-foot building that they may not need a variance. They won't even come here. You wouldn't even have the forum to express your concerns, which are legitimate. But I think you're going to get more accomplished in land development than you will at the zoning board, given the nature of your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
When does land development meet? Here. Here? When?
I think it's the Wednesday. Yeah.
We'd have to do a whole design. We're not just gonna appear, if we get approved, I'm sorry, I should talk about this. If we get approved this evening, what that's gonna mean is CJ's team is gonna start to do the design of the things he discussed this evening. So stormwater and all that sort of stuff, and I will hand you my card before we leave, but it will not be for a number of months before we would show up in front of council.
All right.
We don't have trouble with stormwater.
Yeah, but,
Keep harping on that one.
all right. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Okay. You know what I need now. I need, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Colleen Dunn,
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus,
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes. All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Settle down, Kev, I'm getting there. All right, listen, just, the board knows we had 3 continuances tonight. Make sure you save the paperwork for those continuances, because you're gonna need them for the next meeting. Motion, huh?
Sorry about that.
I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?